I'm realizing we record at sort of like the worst time every time.
Yeah. In what way to you?
We record in the midday slump period
Mhm.
every single time. As we're chatting, it's 1:12 in the afternoon. We're post lunch. I got up at 4:45. You've been up since whenever. And I always got to fight, not always, but I often have to fight through this time of day. Here we are. Is that why you thought the same?
Yeah, and also we both have to go off to things after this usually. During the school year, we finish and I go off to pick kids up from school and then that happens and you go off to the gym
Yeah, 3
and
hours of clients after this, yeah.
yeah. So it's the
Well,
worst in terms of like get the podcast because it has to upload afterwards. So
yeah,
I even if I have 20 or 30 minutes to edit it, I can't because it takes at least that long to upload the high quality audio file. So then it doesn't get up till later, which means if we ever run into any sort of glitch in the audio, which we've had a few of recently, like there's no way the episode gets out today.
mm. But this is not the sole reason, but a large part of my reason that I now bring Fight Milk, much like you, to pretty much every recording is I need to second dose caffeine, so I have a personality, so we can be our authentic self
We need
this time of
social
day.
lubricant.
Well, that's not how it works for me, but do you need caffeine just to socialize with me?
No, you just said like in order to be my best self, I need this and be
Yeah.
authentic. Is it authentic if it's chemically aided?
Caffeine, a little bit of sugar, we'll be all right. Bracken, I want to congratulate you, and I think this is pretty cool in my eyes. Um, you're dipping your toes back into the teaching waters, and I think it's pretty cool. So, congratulations on your new position you accepted this last week.
Thank you. It's
I think it's
ironic.
awesome. I want to hear more about it.
Well, I just got done having this conversation with several different people that I don't think I can ever return to having a boss.
Hmm.
Just had that conversation with several people. In fact, I had that like 2 days before accepting this position. I just talked to the principal at the school. It was like, because he was my principal. His first year of being a principal was my first year at that school. And so he was my principal.
Hmm.
And we were talking about the different routes we've taken, and they're in a different building now and they have a different clientele. But I was just like, I don't know if I could ever do that again. And 2 days later, he's like, hey, do you think you could do this for us? And like 48 hours later, I accepted it. So I just even told him I couldn't do it.
You told me the same thing in
Yeah.
a conversation last week or two.
Yeah.
Well, that's ironic, the timing there. So it's not a position you sought out; they
No.
sought you out. What's the position? Explain it. I mean, I already know
Yeah.
pretty much.
Well,
We've talked about it.
each year, great. My who you met because he had to call references.
Yeah,
My
I had to reference check Bracken folks from what is the gentleman's position at the school?
he's principal.
Oh, he is the principal. So me and Sir, I won't. I guess I use his name or not. Yeah, I had a nice chat
He's
about you.
informal. He's Greg.
Yeah, I really fluffed him up. I really fluffed you up.
Good.
At one point in the conversation, he goes, "Boy, I sure am glad I'm hiring Bracken and not you." He said it like jokingly. So like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Bracken's better than me at this. Bracken's better than me at that." And not that I was lying, but I was certainly giving you the benefit of every doubt in the conversation.
Well, thank you. Maybe.
Sorry, talk about the position now.
Well, each year, because my dad still works at the school. He's retired twice and he still does stuff there. So each year there's teaching shortages everywhere. And every year Greg offers me a position almost every year. And every year I turn it down. I can't go back to a full-time job. But this year they created a physical education position specifically for one guy who used to be a full-time teacher. And then he went on paternity leave and he was coming back in a limited capacity. So they just created a 3 hour per day class for him where he just taught back to back to back and left. Didn't have to come to meetings, didn't have to go to professional development. It was just a limited term, like one off position. And 2 weeks now before school started, he accepted a job somewhere else.
Yikes.
So, but they've already established all the schedules, like all the classes in that school, because it's a smaller high school. There's only like 200 kids. This is the alternative high school. So they created all the schedules around this thing happening from like 11:30 to 1:30 every day or whatever the time period is. And then he left. So they can't undo it. So they had to find someone to plug that position. And that's just way too specific for it to ever work for most people. So that's the position I decided to cover.
Excuse me. That's
Gym
awesome.
teacher.
So you're teaching physical education, and you had your own spin on it, saying, "Hey, I will take this position with the exception I can do it my way. I can teach them what I think is important."
I went into this interview and I said, like, you can't afford me, and I don't think you need me. I think you need someone else, but this is what I think the position needs. I kind of like, it was like it turned into a consult, which is a very strange. I've never had an interview like this, but I basically said there are 49 state standards, and I believe like 19 of them are being touched, and they're all the most useless standards. But there are shockingly good standards when I looked it up that every adult human should know for long-time physical and mental wellness, and they're not being addressed. So you just need someone who can come in and address these things, since this is an alternative high school that's setting kids up for adulthood, not necessarily secondary education. That's not a mission statement. They send kids to secondary education, but the primary goal is to get them through high school and into adult life as like functioning members of society. And I felt like there's physical education could be like a swing state in that school atmosphere and environment. And then I ended up, they changed the requirements and offered the job a second time, and I took it.
I love that. So these kids are either like behaviorally or physically or intellectually challenged. Is this like, or are any random kid down the street goes to this high school or school?
It's now a mix. So when it was started, it was for expulsion and pre-expulsion only.
Oh, okay.
And then it became a cast-off place where problem kids from the high schools were sent there to lessen the load on the high school. But through the alternative programming they do there, it started to become an interesting school. Not started, it was, but it became an intriguing spot for the tweener kids. And then they started opening up, and now you can actually open enroll in. So it's now not specifically an alternative education high school. That's still a high percentage of the population, but non-traditional learners can choose to come over as well.
Yeah, and as a reminder, folks, Brakken's father literally founded this high school, Peter, which is pretty cool. It's the first thing Greg said to me. As you know, this high school means a lot to the Kraker family, and thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. So you could potentially have your hands full if you have disruptive behavior tendencies, children in there. Like this could be, it's what you did before, though. You worked with similar type children, right?
Yeah, except I was primarily special education at the time. This will be everyone. But the interesting thing is that Lisa and I had been talking about how we spent probably the last 12 years only making selfish decisions. Like, I would say good selfish, but every decision we made was about our personal finances and our kids. And that was kind of it. And like the business has gotten to a point where we are at the very least comfortable. And we don't have to be so selfish with our time anymore. And I wouldn't call it a midlife crisis, but it's like I'm nearly 40 and I do nothing for my community anymore. I do nothing for the community I live in. Like, is it time to start doing some of that? And then the state fair was happening a quarter mile from our house. And the second day of it, I walk out and there's a guy out there. The high schools do parking there as a fundraiser. They park cars and they get a percentage of it at the city hall parking lots. And he comes over and there's this guy who's tatted up with no shirt on other than his parking vest. And he comes over, he's like, "What the F is this?" And it was like, he's got an ankle monitor on. And it's a kid I taught at this high school 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And we talked for a while out there. And it just kind of hit me that I don't have these anymore. It's been a decade plus that I had an impact on somebody's life trajectory that wasn't from a physical fitness standpoint. And it just kind of felt weird to see that. I used to have that every time I went out in public, I'd see an ex-student. And now they've all grown up and they have their kids or are getting out of prison if I didn't do my job, apparently. And I don't have that anymore. And that was such a huge part of my life that I just got that urge to, it's time to like start giving my time in a different way. And like 4 days later, this opportunity to help out in a very limited capacity arose. So it's like, maybe it's just time to test it out.
I love it. And it's a couple hours a day. So it's not like it's consuming too much of your time. You can continue to be available for your athletes and do the coaching and the pod. Nothing's going to change. You'll just be a little less selfish with 2 hours of your day, is what I'm understanding.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
And they've tweaked it slightly. So it's 2 hours and 40 minutes per day.
Okay. 240.
And it's like, I don't know, 700 meters from my house.
Yeah, you can walk there.
Yeah. Yeah. If I'm late, I can bike over there and be there in 1 minute.
Love it. Well, I thought the people should know. You weren't sure if you wanted to talk about it. I was like, Brakken, we got to talk about this. This is cool. Yeah. I think it's cool.
So welcome. It doesn't feel like taking a job, honestly. It feels like, this is going to sound way more altruistic than it is, but it sounds like a volunteer opportunity. It feels like it's just an opportunity to give back, but it absolutely is a job because they're paying me for it. But either way, it's such a small investment compared to what an actual teacher is doing, that it's a nice small way for me to decide if I'm ready to actually be in this stage of life where I start thinking about people other than myself and my kids.
Thinking about your kids isn't selfish. And I mean, making six figures for only working 2 hours and 40 minutes a day is pretty good.
Yeah. Teaching lifestyle is lucrative, and I couldn't pass that up.
That was tongue in cheek, folks. I don't know what they offered you, but I certainly know it wasn't 6 figures to teach those in 3 hours a day. All right. You happy to move on?
Yeah, actually, I don't think we had talked about it, but it is 2 FIAD classes and a bikes class.
Oh, what is that?
Where we teach bike maintenance and bike riding.
Okay, well, I feel like you're...
How awesome is that?
Awesome. I feel like your karting experience do you know much about bike maintenance, like other than the basics?
I now know how to work with tools and like do this. Yeah. So I couldn't have done this a year ago, but they found out that a high percentage of their kids can't swim and can't ride a bike. So they decided to form a bike program where any kid who can't ride a bike can learn to ride a bike and can learn to maintain a bike if they want to.
Good thing you don't have to teach cross country skiing.
Oh my goodness. Those who cannot do teach.
All right. Q&A, folks. That's the deal today. I got, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 15 questions that have come in, and it's time to hit these babies. These are still my favorite podcasts to record. Other than we'll get in with a guest and it'll be super interesting. Of course, we don't always know how those are going to go till we're in them, but this I always know I'm going to enjoy chatting with you.
Yes. Guest interviews, I often am like ambivalent about. I see the guest, I know they're going to be interested, but depending on my mood, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go do an interview, go do a podcast. Mm-hmm. I always look forward to Q&As.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had some good guests lately. It's time to see. We're going to shove Kirk and Brakken down your throat for the next 45 to 60 minutes here. And let's try to see if we can keep these answers. Like, I don't know, we often elaborate, but there's a chance we could get through all these if we keep them to like 3 to 5 minute answers. So why don't we try that?
I think it's really kind of you to keep saying we.
Well, we can
Our
do
pattern
it. I believe in us.
You say it, I respond. You respond, and you say, are we good? And I say, yeah, except, and then 45 minutes later, you ask the next one.
All right, well, whatever then. No, you can't put handcuffs on you. Hunter asks, hey, Kirk, see, these people know now. They know to just address me.
This is on the Running Public Instagram.
I don't know, but I would assume so. Hey, Kirk, another Q&A for you. My wife and I have always had an issue with training volume. I typically do some form of cardio 6 days a week and train 10 to 12 hours. I'm usually 50 to 60 miles per week, but I'm coming off injury, so it's been less. We had another argument around it yesterday, and she said if I told her which 4 days I wanted to run and we scheduled it, then she thinks she could be happy with that. I know context is everything, but do you think I could expect to make any progress on 4 days per week of running? To be fair, I think I could sneak in a 30-minute run or 2 during the week at lunch. And then he says, oh, and while it would be a good Q&A question, a simple answer in real time would be appreciated.
This is difficult. This is a conversation I have with I, probably 50% of the married athletes I work with, which is I will at some point become the most likely uh, fissure in your relationship.
Mm.
Because as you take training more and more seriously, you're going to dedicate more time to it and you're going to talk more about it. And it's going to become part of your personality. And I'm going to be the representation of that to your spouse.
Mm.
So we need to make sure that they're on board with everything you're doing, to the point where I've had the spouses on client calls. Like, what are your concerns? What are you seeing that I'm not hearing from them? What do I need to hear from your perspective? Because if the family life is bad, it absolutely seeps into training,
Hmm.
because training will seep into family life. So without even getting into can he get better off less training or not, this is example A of, if you put 10 to 12 hours of anything into a relationship, it's going to impact it.
Mm.
And if your significant other doesn't share that passion, I'm assuming she doesn't train for something the way you are, it's always going to be like the other woman.
All right. Well, you're correct, and you're very right. And I've dealt with very similar conversations. I have had, oh gosh, let's just say a dozen athletes over the past handful of years who end up coming to me and say, I'm sorry, I need to do less because it's not working with my home family life.
Yeah.
And so we end up going from 6 to 5 or lower volume during the week, or all because of that exact thing, whether it's their spouse or their just time commitment, because it's negatively impacting relationships. Yeah. Um, so here's my answer for you, Hunter. Absolutely. I know. So Hunter, you're injured right now, I believe, even more so than when you sent this question. So we're late, I guess. But point being, 100% yes. Even being a 60 mile per week athlete, especially if you truly mean you can wedge in 30-minute runs once or twice a week on you're not even counting that towards your 4 days a week, you're going to be just fine. Just there's actually I don't think it's going to negatively impact you whatsoever. Let's say you couldn't do that. Let's say it's 4. There's no extra, nothing. I'm still saying yes. Consistency over time is rewarded. And maybe 4 days a week versus 6 doesn't feel consistent to you, but I can tell you the most fitness gains I actually made ever, Brakken, running in my adult life is during COVID, when I was like going through my own personal stuff. I was running 4 days a week and that was it. I said, I'm just going to devote the 4. I'm going to make them count. And I got fitter and fitter and fitter. And there's a number of other reasons there, but when I put my running shoes on, it counted. I didn't go run less than 10 miles when I put them on. My workouts were big. My long runs were long. And I was running 50 miles a week in 4 days or so. And I was fit. And I felt really good about it.
Yeah.
I ran ultras on those legs, and they went well.
Yeah, you did well.
So point being is yes, yes, and yes. But just the day's got to be big and purposeful. And it can't be a wasted stride.
Yeah. I've always felt that as soon as I get to 30 to 32 miles per week, if I'm being intentional with things, that's enough to get better.
I agree with that.
That's always been my number, like 32 for whatever reason. 8 times 4 made sense. If I could only run 4 times a week, but if I could average 8, I know I'm getting work done. If I can do 6 times a week and I'm only averaging 5, but I'm being purposeful with 3, I know I'm getting work done. 7 to 8, I think, is all anyone needs to put in to consider themselves like truly, truly training hours per week, like leaving almost no stone unturned.
7 to 8 of just running, or 7 to 8
Training.
of
Yeah,
2
training.
of the hours are strength training and 5 of the hours are running.
Yeah, and if I was limited to 7 to 8, I'd do less strength training.
Yeah.
But no, I 10 to 12 is I think the sweet spot for most people wanting to be super high level but not be a pro. But 7 to 8 can get you so close if you're intentional. Fluff fills that space. Oftentimes, the difference between the 8-hour week person and 10 is often fluff.
You do one less recovery run, first of all. So low grade mileage, which is important, but that would be, if you're talking about trimming the fat, you're going to get in one less recovery run, right?
Yeah.
Call it that. And then you're missing maybe what I would call a skill work day potentially, or just like 2 recovery runs, to be honest. Yeah, your 80-20 is going to look a little different, but it's not like you're spending more time working hard than you previously were. You're just spending less time maybe working easy. Maybe is the way I would describe it. It's a delicate thing, but that's how I would look at it.
I also think fitting in the piddly stuff throughout the day rather than attached to the main workout is really key and crucial. Like you can have a 60-minute run that happens in 65 minutes safely or in 90 minutes, depending on how long you foam roll before and after and stretch and look at Instagram or TikTok while you're doing your ankle flexion stuff. Or you can do the minimum effective dose of warm up, get out the door, cool down in the shower and on the way to work, and then do some mobility stuff at your desk. And at lunch break, do another thing. And you're a little tight throughout the morning, but then you get down and do some pigeon stuff for 2 minutes in between meetings. And if you parcel out the piddly stuff throughout the day, you don't need big hours at one chunk to get good work done. And I think that's one big thing for people is I leave the house and it's 90 minutes to 2 hours, everything I do, which doesn't need to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I could not agree more. 100%. And then if he's talking adding in like a 30-minute run here or there too, like you're gonna be just fine. Come on, man. I just looked at my Strava as you were talking. I was like, how much, what? I didn't even look at how much time I'm putting in. Right now, I would say I'm at 8 hours a week, 8 to 8.5 total between everything. And fitness is good. It doesn't, if it's right, it doesn't take much.
Yeah. If it's purposeful, you can get it done in an hour a day as a very good runner. An hour a day is all you need. And most people can get by with less.
Yeah. All right. I think we covered that one. You going to add anything in?
I want to, but I'm not gonna.
Steve. Hi, guys. Appreciate you're the running public, but wondering if you'd answer a Hyrox question for your next Q&A. We will, Steve. The gym I train at has Torque MX4 tank and no sled. How can I use this to effective train for Hyrox sled stations, given the mechanics of the two bits of equipment work differently? Cheers, Steve.
Yeah, this is fairly common, I would say.
I would say the opposite of this is common, though.
No, this question, though, for Hyrox athletes.
But often people have access to traditional sleds and not torque tanks.
Yeah.
But yes.
But I don't know about you, but I have not found any. Let's just go over real quick the mechanics of this thing. It is magnetic resistance. And so it does not really scale. You can load 200 pounds on it or 2,000, but the magnetic resistance doesn't really change. So it's heavier, but once it's moving, it's really moving. Like 2,000 pounds would be hard. But having it empty versus 300 pounds on, it doesn't really it's not like loading 300 pounds on a sled where there's a friction-based resistance. The wheels are wheels. So I've never found a better way around it than pushing and pulling it uphill. If you have access to a slope outside the gym, like a shipping bay or the driveway or anything, if you're allowed to do that or can do that, you can get like 90-95% of the way towards a Hyrox sled just off that. But again, that's very much location dependent. But that's the number one way to use those things is uphill.
I'm going to just guess that's probably not an opportunity. I'm guessing it's stuck in the gym. Right. So let's just say that is the case. I mean, pushing and using similar muscle groups and pulling using similar muscle groups. So there is crossover. But I think the powerful nature of especially getting the inertia going is not there with the tank. That's the tough thing. That's the tough thing. The things that come to mind for that, first of all, would be like, it would be so annoying to do this, but like a banded combination, if you could anchor it and put it around your waist and get as far as you can, drive, and then walk it back, drive. And you could probably figure out the same way with a pull-ish, or you could banding the tank itself. How would that work?
I don't know. It requires only workarounds to get there.
Yeah.
My take is you can't get the big power requirements out of that thing ever. So you have to just approach it from the other side of the coin, which is every time I hit this thing, I am hitting it with higher than race intensity and cadence. And then I'm going to do it highly compromised rather than doing like a Rich Ryan thing where you're going to treat it like strength work and you're going to do 5, 10, 15 second explosive, crazy heavy bursts. You're not. You're treating it like sprints and threshold work and
Yeah.
do it compromise half the time.
Could you put like a wedge in front of like the front tire?
Mhm.
Like a wood wedge to make it like, you know what I'm saying? Almost have to drag. I feel like you could probably put like barriers in front of the tire
Yeah.
to maybe make it worse, right? Do you think there's a workaround there?
There's got to be something. You'd have to bind up the axle in some way. I don't know what you would do other than like I've done a Deca Strong and that sled felt heavy. So
Mhm.
get your quads really, really, really tired and then work it explosively fast.
Obviously, see, we're just trying to hack job this as well, coming up with
Yeah.
solutions, but there isn't. I like your hill idea, but
That's 50-50. You have it or you don't.
yeah. All right. Anything else with that?
Nope.
Hopefully that wasn't caught. All right. Bill. Bill, I've got a possible future Q&A question, and it's probably been talked about before, but I'm going to ask anyways. Oh, yeah. We haven't opened this can in a while. So how important are metrics like cadence? You could throw things like ground contact time, and those metrics our smartwatches give us in there. For most runners, is it something they shouldn't pay attention to, or is it something to work on to improve running efficiency for the majority? Depending on the answer, what is ideal and does it vary by height? Being 6'6", I'm curious if I should naturally have a lower cadence due to stride length. Thanks in advance.
My answer in reverse order would be that at 6'6", you want a shorter stride.
Yeah.
You have greater loading forces. You're going to put more pressure on everything. Height is generally inversely related to physical health. And so I would not want to have a crazy long stride, but because you naturally cover ground, you can get away with a shorter stride. I would want the shortest ground contact time always, but especially if I was large. So I think that, no, I wouldn't rely on a slow loping stride just because I'm long.
So you're, just for the listeners' clarity, you're saying like generally like a slower cadence would also also come with longer ground contact time.
Yeah.
Like they usually go hand in hand. Higher cadence, less ground contact time,
Yeah.
vice
And
versa.
yes.
Which is true. And what is long ground contact time and slow cadence typically associated with?
Overstriding and knee pain and all bad things.
More injury prone generally with return force.
As are tall runners in general.
Yeah. 6'6". I would not want to be a 6'6" runner. You get a lot of things to overcome being 6'6" and running. People remember as a kid, when you're younger, you'd be like, oh, she's got such long legs. She's going to be such a good runner. He's so tall and long. He's going to be a great runner. Like people just like say that thinking like because your legs are long, you're gifted at running. No, it's a curse. You got to move all that through space. But like common knowledge, like people still think like, oh, they're long and tall. They must be really good runner.
How many?
You get that as a kid? I mean, just people said that all the time.
Yeah. How many Olympians in the last cycle or two can you think of? Let's just say 1,500 meters on up who are 6 foot or taller on the men's side.
McGordy, maybe.
Yeah. Jakob.
Is he 6 foot, Jakob?
I think he's right around.
He looks tall compared to his competitors, but none of those guys are tall.
No.
What's Hawker's? 5'8"?
Yeah, 5'9" maybe.
Whew. Yeah, what Yared is probably yards, probably 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah.
McGordy's got to be 6 foot.
I would guess he might not be.
Well, the point being, we have to rack our brains. Yeah. I guess the point is being made.
Who are the goats? They're all under 5'7".
When you see them, though, they look long and tall because of their physique, but then you would stand next to them and be like, oh, they're 5'7". Never mind. Yeah. They appear 6'2" because of the way they're proportioned.
Yeah.
But they're not.
No, height is a disadvantage. So I would say that all of those metrics, ground contact time, cadence, things like that, they're like respiration rate or your core temperature. The numbers don't matter that much until they're off. Like who walks around worried about what's my respiration rate? Well, no one. But if you can't catch your breath during a run, suddenly it's like, well, maybe we should look at what's your breathing pattern. Most of these things are fine until they're not. So I think if I had to worry about one thing from a purely metric standpoint, I would worry about ground contact time.
All right, I got a list for you.
Okay.
Guess how tall Sean McGorty is?
I would say 5'10" or 5'11".
6'4".
No, he's not.
That's according to Wikipedia.
I'm usually really good at this game, and I'm horrifically off on
this
his.
this is fun. Okay, hold on. I got a whole list here. It pops up, it generates. How tall do you think Grant Fisher is?
5'10", 5'9" maybe.
5'10", nailed it. All right, how tall Cooper Tiers, one we didn't mention.
Oh yeah, he might be 6'2", 6'1".
He's 6'2". Cole Hawker,
5'9".
5'10". Woody Kincaid,
5'10".
5'10". Abdi Noor,
He's got a really long stride, but he might be like 5'9", 5'10".
5'8". Okay, I'll do two more and then we'll stop. Luis Grijalva,
5'8".
5'8". Yes, and the last one, I think you're gonna nail this one. Graham Blanks,
Graham Blanks. He might be 6 foot.
6 foot on the head. Good job. Yeah. So this is perspective. I didn't know Sean McGorty was so tall, but I will say
he looks like a monster.
Well, I think he is. So I was right, first of all. And second of all, the U.S. contingency is generally taller than a lot of the other countries' best runners. We have like I would say per capita, tallest distance crew.
Probably, yeah.
Whatever that means per capita.
Australia. Why am I blanking on his name right now?
Yeah, the McSwain.
McSwain. How tall is McSwain? Stewart.
All right, I'm doing this. Sorry, guys, listening, if this doesn't interest you, but this heavily interests me for some reason for the sake of this conversation. Stewie McSwain.
Because he looks tall out there, and he has a super choppy, fast turnover stride.
McSwain. Height. 6'2".
6'2".
Okay, we got no Yaku
looks
now.
tall. And this guy's 4 inches taller than what we're talking about. We said McGorty's a monster, and he's 2 inches shorter than 6'6". So,
okay, Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Height.
I'd say 6 foot 1/2 inch, 6'1" maybe.
He's 6'1". Okay. These guys are taller than I thought. And the last one, the GOAT, Eliud Kipchoge. What do you think?
5'7".
Kipchoge.
He runs tall with a presence, but he is not a big man.
5 feet 7 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm embarrassed why I was so far off on McGorty, because my carnival game could be guessing people's height.
I like watching McGorty because he's got a bit of a build too. Like he's got muscle on him compared to his competitors, and he's taller. Mm-hmm. So I always like secretly root for like the biggest guy in the field, and I always feel like it's him.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry we got off tangent there, but well. So do metrics matter for tall people?
They do matter, but you just want to limit impact. I think all people should strive to have the least amount of time spent on the ground as possible, because you have the least amount of time for things to go wrong. So ground contact time, if you think it's an issue, you just try to get off the ground quicker, and you can track that on Garmin and whatever. Same thing with strides. Stride's another good way to do it. The only reason I say ground contact time rather than stride, rather than cadence, is that if you're trying to improve your cadence, you generally just try to pick your cadence up. And that's about as far as people think about it. Whereas if you try to improve your ground contact time, people are like, well, I need to improve my balance. I need to do some more plyo. And they address it from a better standpoint for whatever reason because of that metric. But either way, I am not someone who's a slave to metrics like that, but we're all probably a little more sluggish in our stride than we should be. So we should strive to improve it.
Yeah. How about just this? Are you notably slower than you want to be? Well, it's probably all of us. Or are you notably more injured or always dealing with something than you want to be? The answer usually can go right to like ground contact time or like overstriding, like you can almost point the finger at that first. And if that's not the problem, then look elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And so like, gentlemen, if you are constantly injured or dealing with problems, I'm going to say yes, you probably need to pick up your cadence a little bit, just knowing nothing about you.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of work. And people also think like, oh, my cadence picks up when I run faster and my cadence is slower when I run slower. And that makes sense. sort of, until it doesn't, because like you look at some of the best in the world. If you want to go watch, we're just talking about some of the greats. Go watch Grant Fisher warm up versus race. He might warm up at 180 strides per minute, running 8-minute pace. They shuffle. You don't see Grant Fisher running slow and loping. They're just scooting these little micro steps at about the same cadence they would be if they were running a threshold workout.
Mhm.
And all those guys and girls are so efficient. It really should be non-discrepant based on how fast or slow you're running. The stride should just lengthen or shorten, but your cadence should still be the same, whether you're running slow or fast. That's the thing people really struggle with.
Yeah. That's the
Running.
difference, I think. That is the hallmark between was I born to be a distance runner or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's how
Some of the-
comfortable are you jogging?
Some of the smoothest people in college I remember who would just look beautiful opening up, like our school record holders, national champs at Oshkosh. And running slow, they would just have this weird shuffle scoot, and they would just like, whereas like I felt like I kind of had they just pitter pattered around. I watched like John Leroy, he was this multi-time state champ in my era, and he'd run with this little micro stride. It looked efficient, but it was like the guy was just scooting. And then the faster he got, the more beautiful he looked. And that's how almost all those people were. The ones who rarely got injured were some of the quickest. They scooted until they didn't, right? Until they took flight.
Well, if you think about it from a balance perspective, no matter how bad your balance is, it's pretty good with 2 feet on the ground. And the next closest thing to 2 feet on the ground is standing still, just like barely like pitter patter, 1 foot off the ground, the other one like just like drumming, tapping, tap, 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 tap. And then if you start adding forward propulsion to it and try to keep it at like 2-inch strides, you're still pretty well planted and balanced, and your ground contact time is going to be about the same. And at some point, it gets long enough that you start exposing imbalances and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So just from a structural standpoint, the closer you keep your stride in and the faster it turns over, the less opportunity you have for imbalances to be exposed. Not that we want to run closed off, but everyone can fix their foot plant by just taking mincing little steps. So it's about taking that concept and moving it as far out as you can get it. But we usually start from a place of too far and we have to bring it in, rather than a little kid learning to run from shuffling to jogging to sprinting. We start with loping strides because we did sports, and then we have to try to compact it.
So try to shuffle a little bit more. How about that?
Well, I will say this. We're doing great on keeping this brief.
Do you want to find out how tall the chicks are too? I can run through all the women.
Yeah. Let's definitely. I realized that when I saw Emma Coburn for the first time.
And she's a presence out there.
She has a presence. And she is a tiny human being.
They're all microscopic human beings on the women's side.
Yeah.
Even the big appearing runners by comparison are like 5'6".
Ellie Purrier St. Pierre looks like a powerhouse out there. And then you see her with her husband, you're like, that is like a fun-sized human being. And she is a powerhouse, but she is a small stature person.
Yeah, watching Dakota Pepin, former Lindworm, at the start line of these last couple of races. I mean, not to compare to like a still young and growing child, but you take the frame of somebody who just hasn't like you look at the wrists and the ankles and the bone structure, muscle on them. Of course, they're amazingly impressive, but it's just everything shrunk to something that you would normally see in anywhere in life. They're built to run fast, and then they've worked really hard to do so. Mm. All right. I think Jess Hall's the tallest on the women's side.
The interesting thing.
Klosterhausen.
Yeah. Yeah, she could be up there.
Wayne Colati, probably 4'8".
So small.
Yeah.
So taking this way further than we need to, the interesting thing about running, though, is that the freak performances throughout time are generally done by taller athletes. They're just so few that get to that point healthy and fit. Like the sprint performances, Bolt was 6'5". You look at Jakob, he is the outlier of our generation. He's 6'1". You look at prior to him, who was it? Was it Kip Sang? No, it wasn't Kip Sang. It was Kip what? Kip Lagat? He looked like a spider out there. He was like 6.
Scepter guy.
Was it?
I know who you're talking about, and he had like legs up to like his eyeballs.
Yeah, he was like 6'1", 6'2".
Oh my god, who? Yeah, Chariot.
Timothy Chariot's a little smaller, but he was taller than all the other people out there at the time. The outliers are taller, and that's when you get limb length combined with the genetic predisposition to getting off the ground quick and having huge lungs and staying healthy. But
Mm-hmm.
to hit a world best, you have to have a freak frame and freak genetics. But
Mm-hmm.
generally, it doesn't work out. You see so few 6'5" sprinters, but when it does work, it changes the game.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's just like all of us normies out here trying to run fast, and I compare myself to the best constantly. But you line yourself up next to the people who have made it in the biggest stage. Like,
Yeah.
I am a different species. I am a different species than all of these people, these case studies here. Like, literally, it's kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
In our own subsets, we might be the most fit person in our crew or in our neighborhood or in our family in a running sense. I am looking the part and being the part. And then you go to the pros and you're like, who's the elephant in the room? Oh, it's Kirk.
Yep.
Like, literally.
Yeah.
Wild. All right. We should leave that alone. Wayne Cloudy, 5 foot flat.
5 flat. She made it.
Yeah. All right, Eric. I hope that conversation didn't upset anybody about size, height.
Listen, if you're upset about your height, then you're in for a long life of disappointment, because that's one of those things we can't change.
All right. In fulfillment of Kirk's, I remembered a question while listening to the July 4th Q&A. I don't think that's a full sentence there. I have a feeling you'll like this one. This year I'm running a road half marathon in early October, and then a mid-late November running the Nike cross country race with my son. This means potentially wearing cross country spikes for the first time in close to 30 years. How would you prep for that to ensure that my Achilles tendon doesn't explode sometime, during the race? You've got till October. I have faith. Smiley face. Oh, Eric.
Non-answer first, don't. If you're not running under 5 minute pace, I don't think there's any need for cross country spikes. Now
depending on what kind of terrain day you get.
That's a general blanket statement, which are generally bad. But most of us aren't fast enough to need spikes. If it is super sloppy and muddy, you're going to need spikes in, but I wouldn't for most people. You can get a by with OCR shoes, with light trail racing shoes these days, but I believe, who is it? Saucony? Is it Saucony, Kirk? Just put out the first true cross-country super spike, and it is not World Athletics legal. The stack height is too high. As like a 2/3 length plate. That's what I would do. I would get the highest stack cross-country spike possible, because that's going to give you the most support and shoe underneath you as possible. And I would start by doing your post-run strides, and then I would start by doing your shortest intervals in them, and then I would move up to regular intervals. And if you can't get through that, then you don't race in them. Because whatever you gain through spikes, you're going to give back when you break down and can't run well anymore for the last mile or two.
If you had to pick your non-spiked shoe to race in right now, what would it be? My answer is easy as could be.
Do you need traction?
Let's say, yeah, that's why you wear spikes.
I would probably race in the Salomon S-Lab Pulsar soft ground.
I've never worn that shoe.
I mean, it's right here. It's got this traction on the bottom. It is insanely light. And for a normal human being, it is way lighter than you ever need.
I still have 2 brand new pairs of Hoka Evo Jaws in the box. I'm looking for a reason to use them. And those babies, there they are. They run sweet.
That'd be another great option.
Yeah. I don't even know if you can find those anymore. My advice on spikes, by the way, would be, what shoe is that?
This is what I would get, though. The Hoka Crescendo MD. It's a middle distance shoe, but it is not. This is the most cushioned spike I've ever seen in my life. Go ahead.
I'm going to just butt right in and say you're wrong. Can I continue?
You can.
I can't see your face when you hold it like that. Um, they make more cushion spikes than that because I own one, I'm 90% sure. So my advice was going to be go Hoka. They still stick true to like their stack height cushion. Like, let's give you a little bit more. They have so many offerings. If you got their distance spike, I bet you it would be even more cushion than that. My 5K spike for the track is the most forgiving spike I have ever worn, and it doesn't feel like it's going to rip me up. I bet you it probably feels even more forgiving than that spike right there.
It certainly could. Either like you can't go wrong. This is a $50 or $60 spike.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so squishy and soft to the point I almost felt unstable on the indoor 200-meter track when I was running 4-minute pace. Not for very long, but 4-minute pace. Anyway, something like this is then like if I had to run a 5K on a cross country course, I would be in this shoe.
And I would be in one of the Hoka variation spikes. I might go to one of their cross country spikes just to test it out, but I have like their long distance track spike, and it's really a gift. It's really nice.
Yeah. So anyway, you don't need it, but if you do, get the biggest one possible and definitely build up tolerance to it. Spikes are hard on your body, especially when you're not 17 years old.
Yeah, I transitioned into spikes a bit when I was prepping for my 5K, and it had been 15 years. I handled it really nicely. Generally, what I did is segmented my workouts. Like I was doing, let's say I did 10 by 800 meters. The last 2 to 4, I'd change shoes, put them on, finished, was like, oh, that was tolerable. Then maybe do a half a workout in them, just like, but not the whole thing at first. And then I was like, hey, I'm all right. And then I think I did only 1 or 2 sessions in them of lower volume. But I think like the back half or the back quarter, I think is a good place to start.
And I have a question, and it's not a fair question, but I'm going to ask it because I think it's important to put in perspective. Did you ever race in that shoe?
I did not. I chose to wear a super shoe.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure that lighter, even for me, for a 5K on the track, lighter wasn't, I don't think, the answer. I still think energy return and a little bit of give back from a true road shoe,
Yep.
a super shoe, was still more than any spike could give me at 172 pounds.
And what pace were you running?
454 pace in my last one.
Exactly what I'm saying. So if traction is not the main goal of the day, I don't think most people even need to be in spikes. And if you looked at cross country championships and track 5K and 10K in the NCAA before they implemented stack height standards, everyone was in Vaporflies, even cross country. Now, if it rained, it was a different story, but track 5K was won by Connor Manson, the Vaporflies. National championships, 130-pound runners, and they even went with energy return and cushioning to save their legs. And so again, spikes are great, but they're not needed unless it's muddy.
You know, go watch Jakob Ingebrigtsen's recent shoe episode, the shoes he runs in. Well, he's a Nike athlete, of course, but he Frankensteined some Vaporfly spikes. I think he had them made for him, and of course he has access to that. But there might be a sweet hybrid option out there. They look pretty dope. He took 2 different pairs of Vaporflies and put some spikes on the bottom, and they look sweet. Yeah. That would be the best. If you could do that, do that.
Yeah, if you got a Nike hookup, get their Vaporfly spike.
Break into Jakob's house. Hopefully you're a 10.5. All right. Ken asks, hey, question for the next Q&A. I'm 41 years old and I've been running since I was like 8 or 9. I never got super competitive, but good enough to make most non-runners think I'm fast. 1845 5K, 304 marathon. My question is heart rate related. My max heart rate is right around 180. My 5Ks will average right around 170, and marathon pace will average mid to high 150s. Marathon pace is around 7 minutes per mile. My easy pace is between 8 and 8:30. My heart rate will average mid to low 130s. Okay, a lot of numbers, folks. Hopefully you're tracking. This is a consult type question. Some days I like to slow down my easy runs a bit more to 9-minute pace, but my heart rate really falls off and doesn't get above 120. Is this typical? It seems like a small pace window for my heart rate to swing from 170 to 120. Should I ensure my easy runs are above 120? For reference, I've been wearing various watch-based heart rate monitors for the past 8 to 10 years, and the situation has always been the same. So let's assume first of all, watch data, I throw it out. However, let's assume it's accurate.
I would say that's not a small window. If marathon pace is 7 minute, 7:0, then 9 minute swinging from 150s to 130s, that's not a tight window at all. His 170s was 5K pace, which I believe, is like 550 pace for him.
6 flat pace,
6 flat.
roughly.
So that's a 3-minute window. That's an enormous window. No, that sounds accurate.
I'm trying to think if I went 3 minutes slower than my 5K pace, and I'll average 180, so I'm up 10. My pace, my window would be
750.
bigger. My window would be bigger than his.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's good. That's like his isn't tight, yours isn't wide. That's a good, healthy window. That drop off is a sign of fitness.
It seems like a small pace window.
Yeah, I would say it's not.
No, it's great. That's a good sign.
And if at 8:30 pace you can run in the 130s, and at 9 you drop off to below 120, that's a sign of good aerobic fitness. That happens to everyone at some point. You're just still running well, but it's not costing you anything. That's a good thing. You're getting heart rate response at every level, and your window is not too big or too small. I would say don't overthink it. To answer the question, should you keep it above 120 on most aerobic days? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't worry about it on days where you say, I just like to take it easier today. Like, good. Do it.
My legs are tired and sore, and I want to shuffle. Yeah.
Great problem to have.
And I would say for your mid to low 130s on your recovery or easy days, that's probably sounds about right. You could even be upper 120s, I think, based on what I'm hearing for your max and ranges. So like, I think you're fine there as well. I think if you went out and averaged 130 for your easy runs, you're nailing it.
Yeah.
So
based off of a 175K, 40 beat below that sounds great.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Our ranges aren't much different. My max is just a little higher, and I'll run 130s on my easy days. But there were plenty of days out in Colorado when I was seeing 190 in a race, and I was running 125 to 129 on some recovery days because I needed it.
You start looking at the pros, and you can see like Connor Mance or somebody will maintain like 180 in the marathon for like the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
But his easy days are like in the 110s and 120s.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like they're running easy when they're running easy. It's okay to do that. And yes, I'm 130s on easy days.
I read that question as a great indication that you're doing everything correctly, or most things correctly. Your ranges look healthy. Your training looks well balanced. I'd say congratulations.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, we got a couple of long ones. But we have a shorter one first. All right. I have a question for the podcast. I think this is Janet. I have a question for the podcast, or just you if it's a really dumb one, she says. This started when my husband looked at my Mizunos and rolled his eyes. He said, "Why would you buy a pair of shoes that you can't take a walk in?" Which led a conversation about
gotta be Rebellion Pros.
It is the Rebellion Pros. So she bought the Rebellion
So she's a smart woman.
No, she's okay. Watch yourself, Kirk. She's a very smart woman. She's an educator and amazing. But the Rebellion Pro is the worst shoe ever made. Anyways, so what is the difference between a marathon shoe and a 5K? Which led to a conversation about the purpose of a shoe. So what is the difference between a marathon shoe and a 5K or mile shoe? How do you know? For hybrid, we have to take grip and stability into account. But would we look for a marathon shoe or a 5K shoe? Thanks for everything.
Okay, so I understand the disconnect between people thinking about everyday items one way and fitness items another way. Because a shoe is an everyday item, but it's also a fitness item. But saying, why would you buy a shoe you can't walk in would be like saying, why would you buy a knife you can't use on meat? Or why would you buy a knife you can't use on vegetables? Why wouldn't you just use the same knife for everything? Like you could, but it's not going to be great and it's going to dull really quickly. You get a knife set. There's a different knife for every type of cutting, slicing, dicing that you need to do. You have a different knife for cutting through bone than you would have for cutting through asparagus.
A road bike on the trails.
Why would you buy a bike you can't ride on the beach on?
Mm-hmm.
Same exact thing. Tools for a specific purpose. When you are training, you are buying tools. When you are exercising or living, you are buying shoes.
Yes. So, the question really is, so like, how do I decide what actually makes sense for a Hyrox? I think is what she's really trying. She's trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Like, do I lean more into a longer distance shoe labeled as, or do I lean more into a shorter distance shoe as labeled?
Oh, do we have a YouTube channel coming for you? uh, you lean into the shoe that allows you to do high rocks. And I know that's really, really broad, but every shoe is going to have a compromise for high rocks. So it's just a math equation. How many seconds do I lose on the sleds or on 90-degree or 180-degree turns versus do I gain on the run or whatever else it's going to be? Are my burpee broad jumps or my lunges slightly less stable and wall balls less stable? Yes, but how much do I lose from that versus how much am I protected or gained elsewhere? So you just do the one that has the highest crossover point of I lose the least on it and I gain the most on it. And for some people, that is a stripped down racing flat. And like Lauren Weeks is the world record holder and a world champion in the Mizuno Rebellion Pros.
I don't know how. She'd probably run 5 minutes faster if she got a different shoe.
Rich Ryan, Mizuno Rebellion Pros. Palayo and Rich set their doubles, Mizuno Rebellion Pro, because they've figured out that they can get by on the lunges and the wall balls by practicing and getting used to the form needed to do that. And then they gain it all back everywhere else. And so it's finding that shoe. But basically my take is that you can practice the stations outside of grip on any shoe known to man. You could learn to do wall balls and high heels if you spent enough time doing them.
Send us a video if you do.
I will. My knee highs.
And then I'm just going to say my general philosophy, and yes, this even is for hybrid, is more shoe, the better. The most shoe you can still get away with, the better. That's what I think.
Yeah. I believe stability is overrated in Hyrox if you're running fast.
If you're running fast, right?
If you're running slow, grip and cushion matter the most.
I don't know if I want to add anything to that. Do you want to add anything to yourself here? No. All right, Will ask. Bear with me, folks. We got a little bit longer one. I haven't read it yet. So, all right. Hey guys, Q&A question for you. Training Tuesday number 92 was a podcast episode that provided an overview of the running public training plan, OCR, and a small snippet of the strength plan. I found this episode super helpful as I was able to understand the 10,000-foot view of the plan and the why for the structure periodization. Training periods are set up according to the Spartan Race US National Series. However, that episode was published back in 2021, and comparing the 2021 OCR plan to the 2025 OCR plan, they aren't the same. I'm sorry if I missed this explanation in a prior podcast, but could you explain the 2025 OCR training plan in a similar way to the Training Tuesday episode? How is this 2025 plan periodized? Ultimately, I'm looking to modify the training plan to suit my race schedule and race needs, and I generally understand the building blocks that you two preach on the podcast. But I think it'd be helpful to me and maybe others if we had a 2025 OCR plan explanation that could help us understand it holistically, and then someone could properly tailor their plan to their needs. Many thanks in advance. This podcast has always been a huge inspiration to me and keeps me curious about running, even through the seasons of my running journey. All right. I'm going to stop before you answer because this is the prompt we need. So this is Will. Okay. This was on July 13th. July 22nd, a different Will messages us and says, hey, Q&A if you're feeling bashful, a deep dive into the Kirk and Brakken TRP training system. I loved hearing about your training systems and discuss your TRP plan in some detail in episode 92 from 2021.
Come on.
Look at it. Yes, I went back and listened recently, and 2 in short snippets at the end of some more recent episodes because you updated the plan. My read is that you feel you don't want to talk about it much because it feels like selling your stuff, which I get, but I probably speak for others when I say that it would be great to hear an updated, in-depth description of what your training plan entails, the B&K theoretical framework system, etc. So what I think we need to do is, and then anyways, he goes on. And then he says, yeah, I would also accept an update on your gear you're using in 2025, gear you're looking forward to, like a gear episode. Okay. I think we put a pin in this and we actually do an episode about our training plans.
Okay.
Unless you want to get to this now.
No, I think we can give a 10-second answer that gives enough clarity that that will A or will B will know what to do, how to implement. But yeah, we might as
Actually,
well.
will S and will B.
Well, S and will be. And that answer is that the Spartan series used to drive North American participation in scheduling of your year for the vast majority of participants. It no longer does. So this plan has gone from we follow the US series to this is a ready to race program that prioritizes more of like base building speed work earlier in the year and steadier work throughout the rest of the year, but it is race ready. OCR work, compromised running happens year round in this now. And it now is for people that are going to race their local races and travel for some other things, but you periodize essentially by starting to do some things harder and faster and more intense transition wise when you get within a few weeks of the race, and then you back off on race week. So it's not periodized for you. And for $19.99 a month, you're not going to get that, but we can give the verbal instruction on this upcoming episode of how we would do these things.
I think it's time. And we have a great freaking product that is really, really, really cheap. The only shortcoming of the product would be not having us to talk to on the regular basis, like a one-on-one coaching to help you scale it and to help you tamper with the plan race week or race lead-in. That's it. If you want to build fitness, this is your plan across all domains. It's fantastic. So I think we should chat out those nuances. Will B goes on to ask, if I want to scale my mileage and build, can I do that on your plan? Do I need to be targeting a race for the plan to work? Does the strength add-on cycle change a bit year-round, or do I just blindly follow it, not knowing where it's going? Can I jump between the 5K and 10K and a marathon build and different? So I think what's the benefit of your plan versus just say buy an 80-20 endurance plan on Training Peaks? So we got some good questions in there, and I guess I don't like selling ourselves.
That's time.
But we could also teach some people, if we explain the plans, we could teach fundamentals that you could just take and use and apply on your own, whether you're on our plan or not.
To any template style book-based training plan.
Yeah. So should we just leave it? I'll earmark this.
Yes.
I just don't think a Q&A we're not going to do it justice right now.
No. Or if we do, it'll be the last question we get to. As it is, Kirk, our timer's down to 9 minutes and 46 seconds.
I have 16 minutes left.
Oh, I was building in you a buffer, I guess.
Well, no, I got to be done at 2:30 sharp. But
okay.
All right. Scott asks, "Hey Kirk, question for a future Q&A. When you live at altitude and have essentially zero in the way of flat roads or trails, I know, boohoo, with laughy face. How do you choose the pace you think you can race at goal time for a race when you come down the mountain to run a flat road race?"
It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
You have the opposite problem of us. We have to schedule in our lives times to take a drive to get to a hill. You're going to have to schedule into your life how many times per month am I going to drive down to a flat location and do some race pace or faster work? The only other workaround with that is buy or get access to a treadmill. Those are the only two options. But how many athletes do we work with where like, hey, tell me how many times per month you can commit to getting to a hill? And we're going to program that in advance so that it happens. You have to do that with a flat, which is outrageous to us, but so is us driving to a hill for you.
I think you are merely guessing, educated guessing. Mm-hmm. Please tell me you have some douche grade or short sections of road in which are relatively flat. I mean, you could give me a standard 16 by 400 meters with a minute rest. Give me your splits, and I'll say, okay, I can get you in the ballpark on your 5K, for example, right? Like you could take shorter intervals and take a stab at it, right?
Yeah. But the same way that we are going to fade on a Pikes Peak ascent, even if we use our treadmill, you're going to fade in a flat race from running the same flat stride and taking a different type of impact for 10 straight kilometers. So even though we could get you in the ballpark pace range theoretically, or you could run off heart rate, you're going to be beat up by the type of stride you're running as the race goes on. So I think, yeah, you can guess based on heart rate or guesstimation, but you might have to program some road trip down the mountain to go run some mile repeats.
I think that's exactly what you should do, to be honest. No, go out and suck it up. Even if it's a 2-hour drive. Bracken and I have driven 4 hours to go run mountains for the Midwest mountains, for example, for a weekend. My regular Saturday, if I have any trail race, is an hour and 10-minute drive to get to any sort of trail with vert. And I do it every weekend because I care enough to. And I'm hoping, Scott, maybe if you rack your brain, you could at least get to some flat terrain within an hour somewhere. And I'd be tempoing. I'd be like, I'm sucking it up. I'm going to go run a threshold or a tempo run for 40 minutes and find out where that lands me and then go from there or something. Yeah.
The way that we have to ensure that we take all our downhill damage like twice per month, you're going to have to do that with flats. You're going to have to come up with what is the worst bang for my buck workout, like the most impact I can take and the most race pace strides, and go take that once per month. It's a funny problem to have, but it's a real problem. Just opposite sides of the same coin.
And I would almost argue too, like as much as the treadmill is great, like it's been a great tool, it certainly doesn't replace real terrain. And so, yeah, again, getting in the ballpark on the treadmill, but it's not going to teach you how to control that effort when the terrain is real. And that's still very important.
All right. So I have a question that's not on this. What is the treadmill better for? Replacing hills, mountains for flatlanders, or roads for mountain dwellers? Which one would it do a better job if you had to train exclusively on that terrain for a race? Which one would you rather have to do?
Treadmill.
No, treadmill hills. Either way, but for a road or for a mountain?
Mountain.
Oh, I would take the road.
I'm saying that I think a treadmill can get closer to replace the mountain than a treadmill can get to replace flat roads.
And I feel the exact opposite.
Okay.
That's very interesting.
I mean, I've had success. Well, my version of success doing it.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, I would have loved to see you move out to Colorado the year after your treadmill based world championship prep and have a same type a year there and then see if you felt different.
Probably would, I'm sure.
But it's interesting. People do both.
But see, flat for me is so inherent and fast and should be for you too that I just feel like even if I only could train on hilly terrain, I would click right back. I think I just know at this point, I know myself well enough that.
Oh, not for you. I'm saying for a generic athlete. Who's going to get higher to their potential? A Midwesterner on an incline trainer or a 10,000 foot dwelling Coloradoan training on the treadmill for a 10K?
I still think hills translate to everything, so I'm still saying hills.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We just leave that alone?
Leave it.
Stina. She asked us to do an episode on group run etiquette, like how to handle group runs. And I said, well, I don't think we're going to devote an entire episode to group runs, but I think we definitely should touch on it in a Q&A.
Were there any specifics there?
Well, and I'll get to it. So like she said, the topic has been on her mind. I believe she's running with a group. She's like, the topic has been on my mind. I go to a trail run group where pace options are 9, 10, and 13-minute miles. What do the 11s do? And the 10s go out too hot with the 9s? I think a lot of people can relate with group run situations. And then I said, can you elaborate a bit on what you're requesting? She said, of course. Group run etiquette, Ix. What to do if blank. Tips for a first timer, tips for veterans, tips for leaders, and listeners submitted questions. Went to a group run and this happened. How should I have handled it? And like my situation, I keep going to this group run that has no appropriate pace group for me. I flail to keep up with the 10-minute mile, but 13-minute per mile is painfully slow. What do I do? Stop going or fight for my life trying to go 10-minute miles?
All right. So full disclosure, she and I work together now.
Oh.
This is the most Stina question you could get. I love it.
Okay.
If you hadn't said her name, I would have known this was her.
Well, then why don't you grab this one by the horns, brother?
I'm not going to. I think we could answer that longer form later. But I think short answer for this is something you and I have done probably unconsciously throughout our running careers, which is when you meet with faster people, you adjust your week so that that's a big effort day. And when
100%.
you meet with slower people, you adjust your week so that it's a mandatory recovery day or a double session, so that the effort fits the pace or the purpose fits the pace and the effort. When I run with John DeWindt, he is running an easy run. It is my scheduled quality long run for the week because wherever it takes me, I'm staying with him as long as I can. And I feel like it's a race. But that would not be appropriate to do on an easy day. Even though he calls it an easy 10, it's not going to be an easy 10 for me. But when I run with someone who's significantly slower, I do a quality run the day before or that morning. And then now it's pleasant to dawdle.
I think 10,000 foot view, that is the advice. The inner workings of the group, the socialization of the group. I feel like that is so group dependent and personality dependent.
Yeah.
But I think talking about expectations of the run, actually, like, hey, this is important to me. I took the time out of my schedule to come here, and what are we doing today?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then try and say it'd be so great to stick to something. Or there's probably somebody else in the group, Stina, that's feeling just like you. Maybe not. And if you got to create your own little subgroup within that group so you guys hold each other to it, I think that is important. But I think the expectation conversation for sure would be important. And then understanding exactly what you said about, like, what is the purpose of our day today? Are we just putting in miles and it's literally a free for all? Okay, if that's the case, what are you hoping to get out of today? And what am I hoping to get out of today? Or is it bonding and building and running mileage together at an easy effort? I just think, like, the expectation of that specific session is so important. Be like, hey, I'm feeling like I don't know where I belong. Help me out, guys. What are we doing today? And just having that conversation, which I'm guessing she probably has had.
Or just simply saying, anyone up for 11-minute pace today?
That easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the pace groups were decided upon not because those are magic numbers, because it was convenient to the first time they met, and it probably never changed. And that's just routine. Half of what we do in life is because it's what was done, not because it makes any sort of discernible sense. So sometimes just simply saying, I'm in between pace groups. Anyone with me today? You'll probably get some takers. Oh, it's my 5-minute call, Kirk.
You'll have a 10-minute miler who said, I'm tired today. You know what? 11 minutes sounds great. Or do you mind if I try to hang with you? I'm in the 13 group, but like, I want to risk it and go 11, right? Exactly. I agree with that. All right. We have 5 minutes. We have 2 questions, and we're going to do this thing.
We'll see.
Alex, I'm wondering what the best predictor workout could be for a first marathon. Ideally, I do a 10K or a half marathon event, but there's none that work with my schedule. I was considering a 10K time trial 4 to 6 weeks out, but not sure if there's a better option. Really appreciate any advice.
Oh, I'm not going to be helpful initially. The further I get into my career spent around running, the less I believe in predictors, unless you are a highly trained athlete or a very well balanced athlete with your anaerobic and aerobic capabilities. So the longer you've been running, the more you can get a predictor. The less you've been running, the more it is just spitting into the wind. That's where I'm starting.
Oh, you're not okay. So, well, and I think the longer the race, the less accurate the predictors are as well.
Yeah. The bigger the gap between what you're using to predict and the prediction you're trying to make.
Yeah. So, as a rule of thumb, good predictor on your own, you can take 26.2 miles and go out and run a 26.2K time trial.
Ooh.
Reduced down to kilometers, which is going to cut the distance by a third or just over. I'd want that like 6 weeks out, though. I'd want it a ways out.
Maybe even midway through the block.
Yeah, maybe even midway through the block, and just do instead of 26 miles, you do 26K. It's going to bring you to 16-mile effort. That's a big effort. Enough where you should still be able to bounce back from it if you need the confidence of knowing what to expect. 26K, let's call it a time trial. Maybe allow yourself to like not fully race, at least, the first half. It's a big session, but it's going to get you in the ballpark, I think. and you're going to know, hey, whoa, there's no way I could hold that for another 10 miles.
Yeah.
Or it's going to say like, okay, I finished and I'm available, and maybe that could build some confidence at race day in a taper. I'm ready for it. And so I'm just going to say the 26K time trial. If I were to throw blanket statements, blanket advice at you, which means nothing, I think a highly trained athlete on the faster side can probably have a 45-second per mile pace gap between their 5K and their marathon pace. I'm calling it 45 seconds. If you run a 5K at 7-minute pace, there is a chance you could run it at 7:45 pace, but that only becomes true closer. The faster you get, the slower in quotes you are. I feel like that gap widens. For me, my difference is roughly 45 seconds, give or take. Maybe if you were slower, it gets closer to a minute slower than me, I'm saying. But that's such a shot in the dark that I can't even reliably say that for anybody. I'm just like slapping things at the wall.
I think if you are not highly, highly trained, a 10K will give you a decent prediction.
Well, you're going to have to know what to do with that metric once you have it, though.
You put it in the VO2 max calculator, Jack Daniels calculator. I don't care. Just like plug it in and it'll give you a prediction. But that now becomes your best case scenario prediction, and you give yourself a range. I think the best thing any marathoner can do their first time out is say, what is the absolute slowest I know that I can maintain the whole time and still be happy with my result? And that's what you start at. That's the pace group you start at. You can always run another marathon if that's way too slow and you finish way too fast in the second half. If 13 miles of you picking the pace up because the first half was too slow isn't enough to find your ceiling, you get to do a second one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think for an untrained runner, 10K is the lowest I would ever try to predict a marathon off.
Yeah, and if it's your first marathon, the idea of threading the needle, which is what I attempted to do, I don't think you should be threading the needle in your first marathon. Right?
Guesswork.
I mean, it's you don't know what it's going to feel like that when you're truly racing at that back third and trying to thread the needle out of the gates. It's just like, think what you maybe think you're capable of and then back off 15 seconds a mile early or more and see. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing you talked about, the metric marathon, 26.2K. That is a workout I've programmed in the past. You go out and you time trial that by yourself. And that's key. You can't do this with people. You have to time trial it by yourself many weeks prior.
In like a normal training week.
Yeah. And that'll scare you. And then you get to make your decision based off that.
Yeah. We don't have enough time. We have one question left from Chris Johnson, who is a recent guest on our podcast. I do like the question. We're going to have to lead with it next time. Sorry, Chris. We didn't do it. We couldn't do it.
Well, Kirk, I enjoyed today.
Me as well. We always get some good questions. And when people hear this, we'll get another 10 questions thrown at us because they'll be reminded, as always happens. And we'll have another Q&A in store in 2 months, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You got anything to close on? Congratulations on the job.
Thank you.
You're a working man.
Have to start paying taxes.
Hey, you get to still wear like, you get to start wearing like your workout gear to work.
That was the question I asked when they offered the job. I said, this is a strange first question, but what does a part-time gym teacher have to wear these days? What is the attire? And they said, whatever you would wear for a workout is just fine here. So split shorts it is.
Split shorts and alphas teaching every single class.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to have a lot of thigh. My shirt's going to be tucked in.
Backwards Boca hat.
Backwards Boca hat. Whistle in my mouth. Everybody on the line.
Morton's tucked in your pocket.
I have a hydration vest on.
All right. Cool. See you guys
next week.